in planting. This moves it up to 12 feet. That's a standard size on a lot of larger developments that they put in for street trees and stuff. So there is quite a bit of availability of 12-foot high trees. And those are the three aspects of this proposed ordinance.
And the purpose of this will serve to reduce the concern that many residents have had over neighbors to these larger second-story homes, particularly those that are being changed in the core and Place Soleil, where you have smaller, perhaps smaller lots. That the homes next door do not have those looming, overwhelmingly sized second stories on them, which you see in a number of other communities, and which the fear was you would see here. It seems like a very reasonable approach to address this. My only question, is there any concern with the wedding cake or type of?
That was quite a bit of discussions, and working and talking with some of the local architects, saw that that is a concern, but it can be worked around through architectural design. There is going to be some of that setback that you're going to see from especially the road, and you're going to have that kind of view that they don't necessarily, some architects have no problem with that, others I like to work around it through other architectural features. But no, that was a point of discussion through there. But the benefits of not impacting as much to your neighbor overrode most of the arguments.
Right, not having that huge second-story flush wall.
Right, that could affect sunlight, your landscaping, and things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Questions?
This 15% is from, according to this diagram, from the end of the house. Okay, so that, and then you'll have the additional 15 feet setback to the end of the property.
Correct.
So
from the first floor to the end of the property is 15,
so
and in this example, the second floor will be 25 feet from the property.
And is this only, is this only for the main structure? How about if you have like a guest house on the property or a two-story garage or something like that?
This is only for the main structure. That has been the largest concern.
And I know that your proposed, I'm sorry, I believe that the proposed language of this change speaks of a minimum of 15%.
Correct.
Not a required 15%, but it must be a minimum of, which in many instances allows for architectural change or design elements that an architect may propose.
That's
so it's
correct.
A minimum of.
That is a minimum. It could always go larger of setbacks so you could create some architectural variety.
So if you wanted to bring it in, probably you could still have a two-story house.
Correct.
But it just has to come in.
Yes.
I don't.
Questions? Other questions?
No.
Comments? Mr. Hare, are you leaving?
I'd like to. This is not a pleasure. This ordinance, this is a first reading again?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to bore you with history, but between the Chicago fire and health issues, setbacks are the very first zoning requirement that I think was ever administratively enforced on people's property, and for good reason. And I agree that second stories can be pretty onerous to people who are living right up against them and perhaps feel their privacy has been invaded and they've lost some value on their property. Again, the same theme as before. I remember when I saw this agenda come out on Monday, I went back and I read the minutes of the ad hoc meeting. And I remember, I think it was Mr. Shear, and maybe even Mr. Boardman commented that, why are we doing this to Place Soleil instead of just doing this to lot size? Because as he pointed out, Place Soleil lots, some of them are very similar to lots on the other side, and surgically, or maybe more accurately, instead of a broad brush approach to a neighborhood, it would be better to say, this is what we want for our town based on the lot size. Because someone with a giant lot on this side can put their house right up against one property line and still impact their neighbors just as much as they can on a small lot. So I don't know why to me it looks like penalizing Place Soleil when really this should be a design decision or design standard that applies to anyone that happens to have a lot that meets a certain criteria. So I just, I know the zoning code is built into neighborhood themes. This neighborhood looks like this, and this neighborhood looks this, and every standard seems to be to reinforce that particular theme. But I think when it comes to something as physical as setbacks, it's not an aesthetic, although I know, you know, houses look nicer with a little bit setback in a second. It's not an aesthetic decision. This is really a safety and welfare decision, property value decision. Why isn't it just applied to a certain lot size instead of just broad brushing a regulation on an entire neighborhood where in the future between assembly of lots and maybe somebody happens to have a lot that's over that threshold, it's not appropriate. Thank you.
It's not just lot size. I'm sorry. The point was not at all to punish Plaza Soleil. The point was to satisfy the concerns of Plaza Soleil and the town, where primarily you not only have smaller lots. I understand Plaza Soleil has some larger ones as well, but the neighborhood district definitions are really important. And Plaza Soleil has a certain appearance that I think would be benefited. I'm impressed by it. I think the committees that have studied this also feel the same way. This is being done for the benefit of the core and of Plaza Soleil and North-South. Certainly not to penalize them. And I don't think you meant to say it that way. I can't imagine you would. But I just want you to be clear that this is designed to improve those neighborhoods. What you want to avoid is the Seagate look. I always go back to it because I lived there for a while. And the Seagate neighborhood is very much like Gulfstream. And with essentially rampant development of large two-story homes, it's like walking down a street in Manhattan. You hardly have sunlight on the streets because these huge homes are just towering with two-story flush walls. And for the poor soul that has a smaller lot and a smaller home, it really has, in my opinion, taken away from the character of that Seagate neighborhood. And so I think what the town is trying to do is preserve the beautiful look of Plaza Soleil, particularly as it develops, and it is developing. We just had 2 applications today. Plaza Soleil is going to be a gem. And with this sort of second story change, I think it's going to make Plaza Soleil even more beautiful. I really, really do.
Well, thank you for your comment, and I see that that's heartfelt, appreciate it. And let me just back up a second. When I say penalize, the code is law. It's enforced by magistrate, 15th district, there's penalties. It's a penal code. So, but let's not split hairs on that. I just think it should be applied as it's appropriate for a particular lot and not a neighborhood. Whether it's good or bad, I just think the code should be surgically specific to what you're trying to achieve and not just a broad brush for a neighborhood. So thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments from the commission? We have before us on first reading, ordinance number 16/01. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move to approve ordinance 16/01.
Is there a second? Second. Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Gainer,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes?
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Let's move on to resolution 15-11. Ms. Taylor?
This is a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a 2-year extension of the non-exclusive professional municipal surveying and mapping services agreement for continuing services between the Town of Gulfstream and Betsy Lindsay Incorporated, dated May the 3rd, 2011, and providing for an effective date. This resolution is presented for adoption the 8th day of January, 2016.
Any comments or questions? None from the commission? Will you call it, Mr. O'Hare?
Just one question. This is gonna use town money. Was there a competitive bid solicited or any kind of other bids considered for someone else who could do this cheaper? Thank you.
Bradshaw?
Okay. Danny, I may ask you to help me with this, but first of all, we have already used services of this survey company, and we are here today to renew that by two tools, which need two separate motions. One is the resolution before you 15-11, and then ultimately the agreement itself. Originally, I believe that there was an RFP or a piggyback option on this one, is that correct?
Danny Brandon Gillespie. It was an RFP for professional services, rated and awarded, and evaluated for merits from several different vendors. I think we ended up with 3 contracts. We used 2 of the vendors initially. We found this vendor to be of better quality delivery. The vendor has agreed to maintain their existing rates. There's not an increase in the rate schedule, and we were very satisfied with the performance of this vendor.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions or comments? If not, we have before us resolution number 15-11. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Gainer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes?
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. The second part of that is the extension of agreement with Betsy Lindsay, Inc. for the municipal surveying and mapping services. Is there a motion to approve that agreement?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Before we vote, is there a comment, Mr. O'Hare?
I'm sorry, we're doing 1511?
This is we did 1511. The agreement is the document that relates to the contract that relates to
I
that
was just
resolution.
wondering again if there was a competitive bid, somebody else could do this cheaper.
I think we just answered that.
I'm sorry, this is for the, I picked up the wrong paper, I'm sorry.
The rate sheet's attached to the end of the 2011 contract, which is going to remain in force.
Good, no increase in price. All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Gainer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Next is a proposal, excuse me, got a lot of documents here. Proposal to widen Old School Road by 2 feet. Mr. Thrasher?
Yes, Mayor. What you have received a memo from me that stated January 8th, 2016, and attached to it is the quote from Tansco Incorporated to add 1 foot on each side of Old School roadway, pavement roadway, for a total price of $29,785. And my memo makes reference to ANSO being a successful bidder on the entrance project at Blossom Soleil. And this project itself does not reach or exceed the $35,000 requirement for RFP. And I am asking that you authorize the town manager to enter into a purchase agreement with ANSCO to widen Old School Road 2 feet, one foot on each side of the existing pavement for a cost not to exceed $35,000.
So you're building your own contingency into this?
Well, I really never know for sure.
Sure.
There may be some value-added requirements that we might like to exercise, but I don't want to exceed the $35,000 commitment. If all goes according to our plans, the actual cost would be $29,785, but I'm asking for the option to have
When
that
they did
added.
when they did the work in Blossom Soleil, as I recall, they actually came in under their, what you were budgeted for the project.
Oh, definitely, there was a lot of discussion, or at least concern on my part, that the bid was so low that
Yeah.
the quality of the work would be impaired. That was not the case. He did excellent work, and based on what we had budgeted and accumulated in funds, we were able to augment the design to include changes to the guardhouse and other landscaping materials.
But just so the public knows, this is an issue that has come up several times. We talked about it at the last meeting, also discussed it middle of last year at our infrastructure discussion. Need for improvements in the town. Old School Road is narrower than the other roads in the core. That has led to some problems with turning vehicles, turning radius, damage to grass and that sort of thing. It seems reasonable to bring that street in line with the others. This widens the road by a foot on each side. It does not repave it, however. Is that correct?
That is correct. Repaving would exceed the $35,000, and most likely it would be better if we were to utilize the county's contract for paving, which will open up in March, be renewed or awarded in March. However, the budget dollars we have in our current budget will not allow us to overlay it this time. Have to look at it from a new perspective at the next budget cycle, unless commission directs me to do something differently.
Well, you may be paving more than just Old School Road.
Yes.
So it'd be better to do it
Well, we
as part of that.
do need to pay more than just Old School Road, so it's a larger scope of work, and the cost obviously is more.
Well, this bid is significantly lower. There was one for $175,000. This one's about 30. And our experience with this contractor has been good, so it seems like a reasonable thing to do. Any other comments, questions from the commission?
Just so, residents need to understand that it's gonna look different. So you're gonna have some new pavement, we're gonna put it in, roll it, you're gonna have the old pavement, there may be some cracking and so forth, but the overall plan, as with everything, is to come back in at a later date and blacktop a lot of the neighborhood or neighborhoods.
Yes.
Right, it'll be noticed. Yeah. But it's gonna protect some lawns too, right? Certainly make it more consistent with the other roads in town. Mr. O'Hare.
I completely agree this needs to be done, and I apologize if I didn't hear the answer already given, but I know it's comfortable to work with people you got a familiar relationship who've been successful in the past, but this is not rocket science, and I wonder, has anybody else been asked to give a price that might do just as good a job and cost less money?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh, you already answered that?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, town manager has requested that he be authorized up to $35,000 to retain Ansco Inc. to widen Old School Road by 2 feet, 1 foot on each side of the pavement. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Gager?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes,
Commissioner Orthway?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Let's move now to a proposal for new automated meter reading water meters, I believe in Colosso Soleil. Mr. Thrasher.
Yes, Mayor, as you know, this project concept was budgeted in this fiscal year for Paso Soleil. The objective is to replace all the various meters in the Paso Soleil district. Total of 84 1-inch meters, 10 1.5-inch meters, and 2 2-inch meters, with what is identified as automated meter reading water meters. The proposal that I have, or motion that I suggest, is that the town allow the manager to prepare documents for the mayor's signature for a project not to exceed the budgeted amount of $65,000. The component parts of the project are three. There are three component parts of the project. The first, obviously, is the purchase of the meters themselves, and we are utilizing an existing Lee County purchase agreement that is current. To purchase these meters, the cost that will be afforded to the town is exactly that of Lee County, which means that they are a much larger organization. They're able to get a better economy of scales, and by piggybacking that, we are also afforded that same economy of scales. In the documents that you may not have, I have verified that the meters in question are exactly the same as what Lee County received, and I think I referenced in there that they got a 51.8% discount off of manufacturing list price, something that we just would not be able to obtain. So the first component part is the purchase of the meters, and it's $48,270.72. Then in a exclusive agreement, acquiring these meter boxes from the vendor who is providing the meters. The new meter boxes assist or do not inhibit the ability of the technology to automatically read the meters. They're conducive, the meter boxes are conducive to a good read. So that you have telemetry that is easily and correctly obtained. There are 100 meter boxes, all the same cost, all the same individual cost, with a total cost of $4,568.35. And then also in an exclusive sole source concept, and I believe it's wise that the community, the town, has this vendor install the meters and the boxes, and that total cost for that component of the total project is $6,720. When you add those three together, the total cost is $59,579.07, which is within the budgeted line item of $65,000 that was in your water fund budget. But again, I'm asking that this project be afforded opportunity for value added in the scope of the project, and asking for appropriations not to exceed $65,000, which is already budgeted, but bringing it back to you.
And what's the need for doing this project?
Well, I'm not sure there's a need. We're trying to take advantage of current technology, in that we will be able to read all the meters in a single swap, so to speak. We go to the area, and the technology and computer telemetry will read all of those meters in Plaza Soleil from either one, maximum 2 points. So it speeds up the process of reading meters. Ideally, that time will be saved and invested by our employees, invested somewhere else, but they still will have to manually read all of the meters over here in east of the Intercoastal Waterway. The second thing is, although it's difficult to calculate, there is I believe, a financial and tangible savings in that we will be installing all new meters. All the meters will be new. And my history and association with people that have worked in our water distribution system have indicated to me that as a meter gets older, it actually slows down rather than speeds up the meter reading. So there is in my opinion, there is amount of water loss associated with older meters, and we will eliminate that and thus reducing what we calculate to be our water losses. It also is a smaller project, rather than just converting the whole town over, which we are not financially, we have not financially planned for, but it is, in essence, is a pilot program. We've done certain research and found that a local Palm Beach County municipality, I'm going to say Jupiter, Palm Beach Garden, I just don't remember which, has utilized this technology, this vendor, and this product, these meters. And we have good indications that this should be a successful operation. And eventually, we will do the same thing on for all the meters that are located east of the intercoastal. There may be other benefits. I wasn't prepared for that question, but.
Well, I think that you have to assume that the time that our people save can be properly done doing something else. I mean, if they're gonna just sit around and wait, that's not a good thing. But I think that watching these guys go up and down the street and getting down on their hands and knees and reading the meter every 6 times a year, versus driving into Plaza Olay and back out the driveway in minutes, and getting a more accurate reading, sooner or later, let's face it, the whole country is going to be going to automated reading of meters. These meters don't last very long, and they're pretty expensive, as I recall. If you bought them one by one.
One by one is not a good deal.
Yeah. We have a budget for meter replacement, and as I recall, it's a fairly substantial budget on an annual basis.
It could be if we were going to replace all of these.
Yeah.
What we have done in the past, and that's an interesting segue, you might say, thank you. What we have done in the past is just budgeted for a minimum amount of replacement meters. We are able to determine that a meter goes bad when there is actually no meter reading. That's our technology. In other words, you get a zero read, and you know people are living there, something must be wrong. So that's all that we've been able to do financially. Now, since bringing the water service in-house, we have generated net revenue, positive net revenue, and for the first time, the water department is able to do what I think is a significant project for the water fund, and to plan for it, prepare for it, plan for it, and actually do it in a budget cycle, which I think is an additional accomplishment.
Any other comments, questions?
What exactly, how will it affect the homeowner? Will they put it where the water meters, the existing water meters are? How do they mount them?
That's a good question. There will be a certain inconvenience, just talking off the top of my head, to the residents. One, obviously, will be when the water is turned off. You will be without water for as short a period as manpower can provide. And that's another benefit for having a larger company with more employees doing this work rather than trying to do it ourselves. The second inconvenience will be the digging up of the area where the current meter box is located. These meter boxes will be slightly larger, and so therefore there will have to be some digging and placement, all of which will be minimized to the greatest extent possible.
They'll still be below grade.
Oh, yeah.
Fair.
They will be, I wouldn't say they'd be below grade, but they would be equal or at grade. Somewhere that, no visible pop-up, if that's what you're referring to as it relates to view aesthetics.
And they mow the lawn,
Pardon me?
like mine's in the lawn, you know, I mean.
You can run over it?
You can run over it.
Yeah. That would be the objective, equal to grade.
Is there an urgency to this that it, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking along the same lines as Donna, that perhaps a month to consider it at Plaza Soleil, residents there as to whether this is something they want to do. Because it is gonna be somewhat disruptive, and what the location of the meter and how that may affect their property. I may not be understanding it correctly.
You're correct, it is a good thought, but the meter itself, the location of the meter cannot change because of the water mains location and so on. The meter's gotta go basically in that same location, maybe some minor modification depending on.
Will it speed up when there is a problem, you've got a leak, you've got you're using more water than you should? Does it give us that information faster, or will it still be at the end of the meter reading cycle?
No, it can be intermittent or at intervals, but the billing cycle itself will still be 2 months. What happens when we bill out and we have our software indicate to us that there is what appears to be excessive water usage, we tell it, we establish a certain percentage of volume that exceeds the normal average volume of water used, and it kicks out a report. And when that happens, we have to go back and reread to make sure that we haven't made an error, so that might speed up that process as well. And if a resident feels he has, a lot of times we get a comment that something has to be wrong, so we can do additional rereads for individuals on a much easier, in a much easier method and quicker response time.
Is there a Fossil Soleil Association meeting this month?
Yeah, I've sent some.
Do you know?
I don't think so, but I can present something.
It just seems to me it's significant improvement, / inconvenience, and perhaps some alteration to the properties. And I think it should be considered by the association. That's my thought. I would table this for a month. That's my explanation.
I
Unless
agree
there's
with
some
that.
financial urgency.
I think it's a good idea, but I think the residents of Plaza Soleil need to be notified of what we're going to do or what you're considering to do. So I think that we should get the word out and not just do it.
Okay.
Prepare them. I think, instead of surprise, prepare.
I mean, it sounds like a good thing.
It's a good thing,
Yeah.
But
but I just think it's something that everyone should know about before we do it.
So you'd have a motion to table for further consideration until you hear from Plaza Soleil homeowners?
that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, until they're notified, at least,
Get some
and
feedback.
get some
Well,
feedback.
notification and agreement may be
Well,
two different things.
No,
I'm not
notified
sure.
and get some feedback. I think that's what we're
Well,
looking
we've done
for.
this before on a number of other
Okay.
things. I think it's reasonable to do.
I'll make that motion, just the table.
Mr. Hare, do you want to comment?
Oh, if I may, pardon me if I'm interrupting you.
Not at all.
This is very specific to my recent history. I had a water leak. At least I thought I had a water leak. And actually I did have a water leak. It turned out to be a hose bib that knocked off, but nobody noticed. But I called an expert up with his sounding equipment. I said, find this leak because I think it's under my slab. The first thing he said to me, do you have an automatic meter? And this guy talked forever. But he told me all about Boca Raton and Coral Springs and all these other towns that happen to have bad ones. Seems out there's good ones and there's bad ones. The bad ones, people call him up, say, yeah, I got a leak. It turns out he doesn't. They don't have a leak. It's a faulty meter. So he told me there are good ones and bad ones. And I'm just wondering, have you checked out other meters besides this one? Have you asked for the history of these meters' performance? Because it might, you don't have to answer me now. I'm just pointing this out for maybe the next couple of weeks. You could look into that.
No, we haven't looked at that.
The other thing I want to ask is, we're piggybacking, it says here, on Lee County's purchasing agreement. Is our agreement going to be limited to the terms, conditions, and stipulations of that agreement? So in other words, their performance will have to go through the filter of Lee County's agreement instead of just between you and them?
No, we'll have a separate agreement with municipal waterworks.
Well, the reason I ask is, because there are people in those other communities who are kind of ticked off that you know, they have these issues, there's a exposure for the town. And I didn't know if this manufacturer would indemnify the town of any damage resulting from their faulty equipment, or if that's something to consider when you negotiate your contract with them.
I
That's
don't
all I
know
got.
the answer to that question.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. If we are in agreement to table this until next month, consider a motion to that effect.
I think I made a motion to table it till next meeting.
A second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Gainer,
Agree to table, thank you.
Commissioner Stamey,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes?
Commissioner Ortele,
Yeah.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Anything else from the commission? If not, this meeting's adjourned.
I just wanted to come by and introduce myself to you, and always bring us together.
We